Hello, folks. We're back after a week off with the hurling and football shows. Delighted to be back with you once again tonight in association with DB Recovery, a new sports recovery centre located in the Barrow Valley Retail Park beside Dunn's and the gym in Great Cullen. They provide elite sports recovery services using all the market-leading equipment at affordable prices. As well as the equipment, the staff are well trained to be able to give you the best advice relating to your recovery. And DB Recovery cares to everybody, from individuals to teams, from your social exerciser to elite athletes, social hurlers as well, I'd say. You can follow them on Instagram at DB Recovery RP for more information, or you can email them at dbrecoverylimited@gmail.com. They're looking after the hurling show and the football show tonight. So thanks a million to DB Recovery. Right, so as always, look, we do have a good bit to get through. You can get in touch with us. We are live on Facebook and on YouTube and on Twitter. Just pop a message underneath if you have any thoughts on anything. We've hurling to go through. Obviously, Carlow Hurlers in action against Kerry. The Carlow footballers in action against Cavan. We'll look at the Carlow Hurlers game with Kildare next weekend. We've Congress to go through and all sorts. So coming up at 9:40, we will be going through the hurling side of things. Joe Nolan is going to join me for both shows. And just on the top of the hurling show, it's more a generic topic. So Maria Kinsley, the co-chair of the National Executive Committee with the GPA, will be on with us at 9:40 to talk about, I suppose, some groundbreaking news in the sense that at Congress the weekend, a motion was passed in terms of integration between the GA, the LGFA, and the Camogie Association. So Maria will put us in tune with, I suppose, that news, what it means going forward, how the integration may or may not work, and yeah, so it is very positive and it is very interesting. Also, we will give you the fixture details in terms of Camogie and ladies football next weekend. So a good bit to go through. So we start with football first. Tommy Wogan, how's things with you?
All good, Kevin. All good, bye.
Good stuff. And the aforementioned Joe, how are you getting on?
Good, Kevin. Yeah, good to see you again.
There you go. Now DB Recovery, they even look after social hurlers.
Well, I think we both know a man who could do with that. He's not with us here tonight, but I think he could be one of the first clients from the show. Definitely, Kev.
Yeah, it's probably the first injury that he's ever suffered. In fairness, though, yeah, he's not
from hard work anyway.
No, I don't think so.
They're harsh, lads. They're harsh on the man.
He's very.
We can cut him when he's not here, Tommy.
I tell you one thing, right? For a lad that's so hard at work, he's very responsive in the WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
In fairness, though, but yeah, look, hopefully it's not too serious. No. The injury, I don't know if you could say, has it ruled Stevie out of the podcast tonight? That's debatable, but we do wish him the best. Yeah, social hurling. I thought this was supposed to be fun, Joe. What happened to him?
I say it's wear and tear. I say it's probably something his body forgot that he had, and he picked up a knock then, or knocks. But he was moving very well now last Friday night, I have to say.
There was
no sign of a dodgy knee because he was knocking in goals, and so it was going well.
Yeah. So look, lads, as we said, we'll move on to generic topics a little bit later on the hurling show, as well as talking about the hurling itself. But we're going to begin with football. So, Tommy, you were up in Kingspan Breffney Park yesterday, and in the end, 19 points Cavan, 112 Carlow. So I think to many, even though, look, unfortunately, it was a defeat, the performance was probably a surprise to a lot of people. The margin of defeat was probably a surprise to a lot of people. The handicap with the bookmakers was 8 points. And by all accounts, there was chances there to maybe go on and win it. So maybe you'll tell us how the game kind of went and where you saw
it. I was delighted with them. I thought they played very, very well. Yeah, they missed three great, really clear-cut goal chances that they should have taken. I felt in the first half, on the kickouts, they were struggling a little bit on the kickouts. Kieran needs to work a bit better on his kickouts. He was struggling a little bit on them, but I thought like Jordan Morrissey, Jordan had a great game. He ended up on 1-2. Conor Doyle was excellent again. I seen Connor as a young guy coming through, like, you know, and the one thing that always stood out for me with Connor is he's a great carrier of the ball, and he's a bit of pace about him, and when he decides to go, he's a difficult guy to stop, like, you know, and I think he needs to do a little bit more of that, not be afraid to make them runs, like, you know. He made one or two of them there in the first half, and he just tore the Cavan backline asunder with the run, like, you know, and we got a score off it, actually. Like was it Jordan on the other side. Jordan kicked a terrific point in the first half, and I thought Jordan was a thorn in their side as well. On the other side, Darragh O'Brien had a great game. He actually he dropped off and went sweeping, and he picked up a terrible lot of ball and used it very well coming out with it, like, you know, and he even ended up. If you see the clip there, I think it's up there on Facebook, or for the goal. I mean,
I'm actually going to root that out as you're talking there, so belt away.
Absolute super pass, like, I mean, and great to see a guy like that. Darragh's a very from a very young age. Darragh Ryan is a great football brain, like, you know. And if he sees a pass, if he sees he's all that step ahead, and if he sees it, he's not afraid to push it in. And when you do see it, like, you'd be saying to yourself, "My God, like, you know, how quick he was able to move that ball into Jordan, and Jordan just finished it off lovely into the corner of the net." Murtagh and Shawnee had their hands full in the middle of the field. There was a good battle there with them two guys. I felt Murtagh picked up a yellow card that he probably shouldn't have picked up, and he probably knows himself, like, you know. He got involved. There was a free, and he got involved with the referee, and he picked up a card there, like, I mean, and that probably threw him a little bit out of his game, like, you know. But he was playing well up to that, like. Conor Crowley was really, you know. I was delighted with him, because every time he gets the ball, he's looking to take the guy on, like, you know, and he was asking questions of that backline, along with Colin Hulton and Dara Foley. I mean, the first half, some of the scores we got in the first half were just brilliant. I mean, Dara Foley skipped 2 superb points from play, like, I mean, Colin Hulton, very, very unlucky not to get a goal. Really turned your man, beautiful. Caught it, great ball, diagonal ball came into him just on the edge of the square, and he caught it brilliantly. Turned your man lovely, and struck it well, but it just hit the upright and came back out, like. So he was very unfortunate he didn't get a goal off that, but he was excellent as well. He worked tirelessly. He picked up a knock in the first half. He seemed to be carrying his leg a bit. He wasn't moving well, but very dangerous when he got the right ball. Very strong, very, very direct as well, like, you know. Jamie Clark, very workman-like again, like, from Jamie. Was involved. He ended up on kicked 2 points from play, and he pulled a couple of frees for us as well, like, you know. But the difference, as at the end of the day, was Cavan ended up, they got 9 frees, and they scored 9 points from frees, like, you know. And McKiernan was a thorn for us. I mean, he ended up with 7 points, 4 from frees, and in fairness, what do we call it? Mikey Bambury came in the second half on him, and Mikey got stuck into him straight away. Like, he didn't stand off him at all. He looked to lock on something, like, you know, and which was great to see. A young guy, you know, came in and he wasn't standing off, like, you know, at McKiernan. He really battled hard with him. They lost the guy then in the second half. Galligan, was it in the second half?
Thomas Galligan, yeah.
Yeah. He was a loss to them, like, you know. But he had to go. I mean, he just swung back and caught Liam Brennan in the face, like, so. But Shane Buggy he's very calm, very, very cool on the ball for a young guy. Very, very cool on the ball, and, you know, doesn't give a ball away, like, you know. Liam had his hands full with the guy he was on, but battled hard on him as well, like, you know. And your man had to work for anything he got. He had to work hard for it. And overall, I was delighted with them. I thought it was a great performance from everyone. You know, probably been fortunate they didn't get something out of the game. As I said, they did a goal chance in the second half as well. I don't know what it felt to Jamie in that, but you know, if we'd have taken them, we would have won it. But I hope they'll gain the same belief in themselves, confidence in themselves, as I would have got from when I was involved with Carlo, with Hurling boys, when we played Cavan in the qualifier up there as well. And when we came out of that game, I felt like there was definitely something there for us to work on. And I see the same thing happening there yesterday, that they have something to work with. They're a young team, lads, but there's potential there. I mean, it's going to take a little bit of work. The areas to work on their game, and they know that. I don't need to be telling them that. They know themselves, Crew and Simon and the boys, they'll know areas of their game that's probably, that they need to brush up on. Conceding frees in scoring positions, I mean, they need to be a lot more careful in their tackling, Mikey Bambrick plays basketball and Sean plays basketball, so they know themselves. It's quick hands, hand in and get it out. Don't keep your hand in, we tended to keep the hand in yesterday, and we drew simple frees for them, which they punished us with. But I have to say, lads, I was delighted with them. I thought every single one of them lads put a Carroll jersey on yesterday, went onto the pitch, worked extremely hard. Worked really hard and worked right to the very end. Great to see Owen Root back in, getting a run out. Niall Hickey was very good when he came in. He got stuck into it. Liam Brennan, unfortunately, he picked up an injury from that red card, and he was taken off, and Owen went in for him. But it was good overall. Very good performance. Very good performance.
It was good to hear that, Tommy. I wasn't obviously there yesterday. I was at the Hurling, but I was in the previous week against Waterford, and I was so impressed coming out after the Waterford game. I know we kind of let them in it near the end, and they got it. They tightened us, which probably wasn't fair given how dominant we were in the game. But sport isn't fair sometimes. But look, we got out with the win. But I was so impressed. I was telling the lads, talking about it on the way home that night. I thought in atrocious conditions, our retention of the ball, how quick we moved the ball against Waterford, was
exactly yesterday, Joe. That's what they were doing yesterday. That's what I liked about them. They moved the ball quick. They didn't, if they got it free, they moved it quickly. They were going with it straight away, And I go back to the clip with Dara. You see a lot of times in that position when he picked up that ball would have come back out.
Yeah,
it didn't come back out. His head was up, and this is the thing, that every young lad playing football needs to have in their game. You need to play with your head up. Yeah. Darrell O'Brien plays with his head up. He sees the pass. He's seen that pass, and he pinned it lovely to him. Mm-hmm. Now another guy would say to himself, "No, I'm not giving that because it mightn't work out." I always believe, if you're in a position and you can give that ball, if somebody makes room, makes space to come off a player, give it to him. Darrell done that yesterday, and Jordan finished it off lovely,
I'm going to attempt to share that, right? So if you just bear with us a second, because we have a few boxes to take before we get to the sharing facility on this, right? So, okay, we should have some sort of a display now shortly. All right, that's up on our screen, I think. So let's try and make it just a little bit bigger. All right, that's full screen now, I guess, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Right. So, all right, so Josh Moore, bit of a late hit on him. Niall Hickey, thundering through, good direct running.
Great.
Now, we're having a little bit slow to come out to him here.
Well,
it's a great finish, right? And taking nothing away, right?
But Dara didn't. If you look at Dara, he pinned it straight away,
Yeah, he did, right? And sorry, I'm hitting the volume now, and I don't want that. Just one sec. So, I'm just interested in the position of the Cavan defence. Now, look, you'll probably have more context on where this ball actually kind of broke from. This looks like it's a big counter-attack, because Cavan look like they're scrambling to get back, Tom, yeah?
Yeah, but this is the way the Carlow boys have been playing.
Yeah, so that's good from Carlow's side.
Yeah, they're moving it fast. They're moving it quick,
And that pass took out 4 defenders there, right? So let's wind it back once more.
Yeah,
but I think Tommy hit the nail on the head about before. A lot of teams are expecting that ball. If you look, Dara has, I can't remember who's coming on the overlap around him here on the right hand side of the screen.
Looks like Dara Foley, yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of the time, Cavan are probably expecting that ball to be given to Dara on the overlap. You know what I mean? Rather than Dara's coming around, he's hand passed it out, he's kicking for a point, and it's that little bit of quick thinking, like what Tommy said, that takes out that takes out the Cavan defence, if you get me. Like, they weren't expecting it. I wouldn't be if I was number 5, I wouldn't be looking back in that clip too fondly of me positioning for it either. Turning these arse to the balls, the shot coming in wouldn't be exactly something to be fond of. But I think, in fairness to Dara, like you said, it's that little bit of vision there, isn't it? Like, that takes out the defence. Give him the credit rather than rather than downplay the Cavan defence, but give him the credit for a little bit of vision.
I think let's be honest about each other's boat. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a very good pass, right? I'm just questioning why did Cavan boys not get out quicker here? Okay, so there's a fumble. He's trying to fumble, gather possession, and still take out the whole defence. But it's a savage pass, savage vision, and a savage finish.
But it's all about Dara's
taking the chance.
He's taking a chance, but he's moving it quick. He didn't, like, he could have took a toe tap over that. He could have took a play over that. He didn't take a play over it. Once he gained control of that ball, he's headed up straight away, and he's seen Morrissey inside, hit him with a lovely ball. Jordan finished it off.
Yeah. Isn't it really amazing how like, even at senior and county level, a lot of lads don't play with the head up. Such a simple thing.
Oh, well, you see, they don't play with the head up. It's like they're programmed. Like, if I get the ball, I've got to push it back out. I've got to bring it back around again. You don't have to bring it around again. If you're good head on your shoulders, keep your head up, look what's going on inside, and if it breaks down in there, right, you've still got your cover, right? We've still got cover behind that if it breaks down. But I firmly believe in what he's shown in that clip. That's what every forward should be doing.
Yep, you're dead right, Tommy. I think you're, like I said, you credit him. You have the Cavan defence there, and they probably are programmed. Like, you are seeing Dara, and Dara makes a good run. Like any forward, he makes the loop around. Probably a lot of the times there, like what you said, the lad just sees the simple offload, throws it out to Dara. Dara has a pop on his left hand side, off his left foot maybe, and the Cavan defence are thinking that's what's on. And in fairness to Dara, that little bit of quick thinking, like you said, Tommy, with your head up. If he doesn't have his head up there, he turns, he goes backwards, throws off a simple ball, and the goal chances are there. It is great.
But some of the scores that we kicked in the first half were superb. And if that was Dublin, if that was Kerry, they're talking about Clifford, some of the scores he kicked. Well, we kicked equally as good, if not better, scores in that game. But it won't be talked about, won't be highlighted, won't be talked about. But they were superb kicks, and full credit goes to the lads. I mean, I hope that they build on that and they gain confidence out of that for themselves and move it forward again. As I said to you in a previous chat with you, Kevin, and that there will be bumps on the road for this team. Mm-hmm. There will be bumps on the road, but get through it. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep working hard, and you will reap your rewards. They will reap your rewards. And the most important thing is for people in Carlow to stay behind them and support them. But I do find very disappointing is lads that were in the panel, dropped off the panel. Mm. We need to sit. This thing of coming in for a year and then going. That's killing Carlow football. It's killing, and it's no different in hurling as well. If you go into the setup in your county, stay in it, work in it, work your way into the team. You know what I mean? If you get dropped or you're not playing one day, so be it. Get back into the pitch, work again, work hard to get back into it. I think these lads, I think they will reap the rewards if they stay with it. Carew and the boys, all I can say, you've done a very good job on them yesterday. You had them well schooled, and let's move it on to the next game.
I think Tommy as well. A big thing to take from it is the mental toughness, right? Like people that say, "Oh well, we didn't get the points yesterday," but the easy thing to do after the defeat to London and the defeat to Sligo was, as a group, for them to, I won't say throw in the towel, but to back away from the challenge that was put to them. But to put up, like I said, I was just so impressed with how they responded against Waterford. I just thought every aspect of their game, and you mentioned about scores and going forward and trying to do positive things was brilliant. And to cap that then with another performance yesterday as well, it shows that there's a bit of mental toughness in it. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of, and I would be very same as you, Tommy. I'd be very pro. You support the lads, you give them a chance. You're patient, as will Kevin and most people as well. But the lads do know that there's lads out there, and people out there kind of wants to have a cut off them, and why aren't they this and why aren't they that? And and a lot of the time, when that's in their head, sometimes you can react two ways. Sometimes the heads can go down, and there's a kind of the camp kind of goes asunder or whatever. Or you can dig in and produce the two performances that the lads have done back to back. And I think they have to take massive credit from that. And like I said, it's not necessarily about not getting the points yesterday, but it's about the performance, and it's about the journey that the lads are going to be on, because it is a very new team. Like it's an incredible new team. And I think, in fairness to the management team, I think they have got a very nice team. I thought their setup the last day, again, it was more or less the same probably as yesterday in terms of the personnel and the position. I think they're getting a finer tune. Maybe, it might take a couple of games, because, with COVID and everything, we only won a Burn Cup game, limited challenge matches and everything going on. It's hard sometimes to get the balance right in the team. And I thought they have, especially, like I said, obviously it's more or less the same team as yesterday. But and you mentioned a couple of key things, and I think they're very important. I think Darragh O'Brien's role at centre back, or we'll call him at centre back, kind of Murray, kind of sweeping back, if you get me.
Yeah.
I think he's like a new man back there. I think he's such a steady head. He's very calm. He's good on the ball. Yeah. He's a great reader. I think he'll, and as you can see from yesterday, I think he'll do as much good for the team back there as he would. I know he was nominally a forward, if you get me, like, because most of his game is kind of as a playmaker or working back. But I think he has a big role to play back in there and settling those backs. And I think another thing that I thought was very prominent in the Waterford game, and you mentioned it again there yesterday, is when our forwards get the ball, especially our inside line, that they've one thing on their mind, and that, like Crowley against Waterford, and the same with Colm Hulton, when they got on the ball, it wasn't looking around about who was coming to support me. It's I'm taking on my man. I know I can beat you. I'm taking you on, and either you foul me, or I'm going to get in for a score here, or I'm going to create something. And I think that was refreshing to see. I think it's refreshing to see, and the scores, they're putting the scores on the board, and they're creating a big threat up front as well. You know what I mean? I think that's a very big positive for me anyway for the last couple of games.
If you look at Conor Crowley, Darragh Foley, Colm Hulton, Jamie Clark, Shane Clark, they're not afraid. They're not afraid to take guys on.
Yeah,
they're not afraid, and that's a great thing to see. But lads, we asked a lot of questions of Cavan yesterday in the first half. It was like a shootout in the first half. It was point for point, but we were creating goal chances. You know what I mean? We were opening them up, and it's just a shame we didn't finish them goal chances, and we would have had Cavan in a serious bother. But going forward, I think they're in a good place. Just keep working, keep doing what they're doing, and I think they'll be fine.
I wonder where we get the exclusive rights to Division 4 highlights now after that little clip. In fairness, though, on a serious note, and it's been said for quite some time and on a lot of occasions, to just even have a highlight show for Division 3 and 4 alone, to commission that, surely has to be a possibility.
Kevin, I guarantee you, anybody there that was at that game tell you the point that Darragh Foley scored from play.
You know what? We won't see it here.
You won't hear it, but it was a brilliant score.
I'm gonna say something here now as well, and I don't mind, right? Because it's just an opinion at the end of the day. But last week, just to put people that might be slightly naive into thinking something, last week RT did cover a Division 4 game. They covered Leitrim against, who did Leitrim play? Was it London? Leitrim London, right? Now, in my opinion, and not to downplay the situation, I think the only reason there's a camera there is because Maggie Farrelly was reffing it. Okay? And that is a big achievement for her. I'm not saying that shouldn't have happened, but I don't remember too many other Division 4 games that were on Big Sunday, being straight about it.
That's the thing, Kevin. This is the worry I have with this new championship that's coming on stream.
Up.
Yeah.
Well, so let's tie that in a little bit here, right? So we did have Congress, and are you happy with the structure, Tom? No, obviously not.
No. But never for. Like, I mean,
this is a variation of the initial one, right? But it's not, in my opinion, a very much improved variation.
Yeah, they tried with the Tommy Murphy Cup. Tommy Murphy Cup wasn't promoted properly. They didn't promote it. They didn't bring it up. Like, I mean, you just threw it into asshole pitches. I mean, no coverage. And I am genuinely concerned about this one coming up. Like, we're going to be put on the back burner again. Like, you're not going to see it. The games are not going to be promoted. At the end of the day, I mean, it's about elitism. It's about the top counties. They're getting their piece of the cake, like, and the rest of us, like, just, you go away to the side and you play away your games there, but we're not really bothered about you. We want to concentrate on the big counties, I know. Look at, I know people will argue with, like, like Sean Kavanagh that were on there about the lot of one-sided games and all that, like, Sean was involved in one-sided games too when he was coming through with Tyrone in the early days, and they came through, like, but
Tommy, can you see something emerging where, like, and we would see it a lot with the hurling, that the same teams seem to come up and down? Do you think that's going to end up happening with football, or will it be different because we have more kind of football counties? I think that's a worry that I might have, that will we ever see a kind of a, and I often think about it from a hurling point of view as well. Like, how many teams have made that jump and stayed there on a consistent basis since the restructuring 16, 17 years ago? We haven't really seen it, have we? Like, it's the same teams going up and down. Is this a fear that you have for football, or are they different concerns?
It's just the concern I have is, like, I mean, I think, like, it'll be treated as a second-rate competition. That it won't be treated like the All Ireland series is that they're going to get all the limelight. Try to look at the Sunday game.
The only thing about it though is, like, I know from a hurling point of view, like, the tiers. I mean, like, if you look at the Joe McDonagh this year, could be over in June, like, for the winners there, like, and it doesn't, but still, if you asked whoever, like Mouse or Chris or Faker Fitzpatrick or whoever, that's they're gung ho to win it, and I don't know, like, I see the point about I do see the point about the promotion of it. I do worry about that in terms of getting promotion for it, but, like, are we getting promoted at the minute anyway? I don't mean that, Tommy, in terms of Carlow. I meant as in we'll call the weaker counties. I mean, look, I'll give you an example. Like, I mean, Carlow were in the Liam McCarthy, was it 3 years ago? And I think we were the only county in it not to be on a live game. Do you know what I mean? When we played Galway over in Salt Hill,
and there was round robins, just to add it in there.
I think we were the only county not to have a game. So the unfortunate reality is, it's like in anything, the GA, it doesn't. Even at club level, it happens in terms of, clubs getting spotlights or maybe preferential days or whatever, the further up you go the ranks. But from a football point of view, I wonder, like, will it be, like, would winning a Tailteann Cup be, again, I don't know the answer, I'm just trying out here, would winning the Tailteann Cup be better in terms of an achievement for football in the county, for promotion within the county? I'm asking this the question now. Or would a kind of a moral victory, but not a victory, as I say, against one of the bigger guns, and having a day out, like, which, like, I know there's pros and cons for both, like, but, like, it's hard to know, isn't it?
We're missing one big point before you answer that, though, Joe. We're missing one big point here, lads. Our best competition is still the league, and the integration is not good enough with this new proposal for that, in my opinion. I don't think it is on yet.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but I mean, it's a step forward. Like, I mean, you have to, if you're going to try, like, we have to do something maybe to bring up the difference between the counties. I mean, like ultimately, like, is one. I know we've had some great days, and Tommy, you've been involved in a lot of them in terms of great championship days, and campaigns, and we've had brilliant days out, and they have meant so much as a Carlow man to us all, and to everyone who was there, be it you, if that was involved very closely, or even me there as a spectator. But I mean, like, I suppose, like, at the end of the day, like would this be worth? Would a win in the Tailteann Cup be would it be as valued as that? Like, would we see it as much a promotional tool?
But sure, they're not. They're already, there's talks. Like I heard Oisin McConville talking about already that he feels like the Tailteann Cup is not going to be promoted again. It's the way that you hear talking, like it's not going to get the.
Well, if you remember correctly, right? So look, again, I really should have more factual information on this, but I don't know whether it was Tailteann Cup. No, it was the John McDonagh last year. Wasn't there a case to be made that was going to be played in Ireland finally? And was that not moved? Am I right or wrong in saying
that? Yeah. So there you go.
Do I need to say any more? Like,
well,
yeah. But I wouldn't go on. On Sunday game or you never see Division 4 game televised.
Oh yeah, but we haven't. But historically, unfortunately, the thing is, I suppose we can't argue that it's just this year or last year. Historically, unfortunately, it's the same as the Division 2 hurling. It's the same as Division 3 hurling if it's London or Division.
Yeah.
Like the unfortunate reality is, every week since I've been a babby, and longer since you were a babby, and that the Sunday game was on the go, we haven't had any coverage. Is this going to be any different? The only thing I would say maybe, and would it be something that they will do? Would the likes of Bio Sport, would the likes of TG4 get involved now that we have different broadcasting elements, like in order to take it on? I don't know.
But should we be talking about the weaker counties trying to promote football on the week? Why not televise one of the Division 4 games? Why haven't it? Why haven't it? There's good footballers. Like there's some good footballers in Division 4 that don't get the limelight. They don't get to be seen on television.
No, there's two things I've heard before, and Joe's kind of briefly touched on one, right? And I thought they were quite good ideas. So yeah, the first one there is basically GA Go, where you make that literally the hub, and every game, as it was during COVID for the most part, is there and available to watch. And if you want to go and watch every game, charge your 10 or 20 quid a month, right? Now, straight away that'll be shut down because people expect it for nothing. But you can't have everything for nothing. You have to offer up something for the service if you want it, okay? RTE can only show so much. So this is where the second thing I've heard comes into play that I thought was quite good. Just simply tier out the rights. The highest bidder gets the priority on game week. The second highest bidder gets the second choice. The third highest bidder, so if that's whatever order you want to put it, if it's RTE first, TG Car second, Sky third, whatever, right? Then you might see more games televised. But you'll probably only see more Division 1 and 2 caliber games televised. Because if that's choice 4, it's still not going to be Division 4 game. So then it's probably the GA Go model. Otherwise, we're going to be talking about this in 20 years' time.
Oh yeah, it's the same. It's the same as soccer in England. Even like commercially, like it probably the bigger teams or the bigger clubs or the bigger leagues are always going to be the ones where you commercially, like RTE can sell more advertising, or to get companies feel to have more bang for their buck. It's no more than the Super Bowl or whatever. Yeah. And that's the reality. I think it's probably two different things in terms of promoting it in television rights, and is it good for football, if you get me, in terms of will it improve us from a football, like we mentioned there about player maybe we'll call it player turnaround or whatever you want, turnover in Carlow or in a lot of counties, we call them smaller counties like ourselves, maybe counties who aren't as successful, and maybe would winning this again, I'm asked this as a question, would competing and winning in a Tailteann Cup where there is a tangible prize, where there's a cup, there's a final, it's on whatever day, in a main day in Croke Park, there is X many games televised, be it on whatever platform, would that be more beneficial from a footballing point of view to where we are at the minute, with maybe getting a glamour tie because your name is drawn out of a hat rather than anything else, if you get me? Do you know what I mean? Long term, would that competition work better for us in terms of, and when I say for us, I mean as for smaller counties, would that work better in terms of retaining our county players, where they do see that there is a tangible chance of winning something and promotion? Again, I'm tossing it out as a question.
Providing it's promoted properly. If it's promoted properly, it possibly will. Well, that's the big question at the moment. So
if you take the championship in England in soccer terms, right? I sit down and watch the championship games. I think they're very exciting and they're good quality. Some would say they're more entertaining than the Premier League. Some, not all, but some. So why can't that model be adapted then? That's the question you'd ask yourself.
But that's the question I'm saying is that, like, I mean, you take, for example, Cavan and Carlow. There, no mention, no highlights of the game on the Sunday game, but they're well able to have highlights of Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3.
The whole the excuse from my point of view is that is gone redundant at this stage. Is that do those counties have a draw? Cavan supporters are probably, I'd say, volume-wise, person for person, almost the best supporters in the country. They are so into football.
Yeah.
So that argument doesn't really.
The Cavan County football was actually Cavan County football. I was looking at there recently. Was it last year, the year before? Was actually up in terms of numbers at a county final. Was right up there with surpassed actually. I think the Dublin football county final that even 1 year I was looking at in terms of numbers.
It's unbelievable.
Attending the final, so there is a big support there.
There was great crowd there yesterday supporting them.
Come here to lighten things slightly just before we finish up on the football show. So I believe Turlough had a bit of a success yesterday. It's mad. He's not even manager and he's still having a success on Carlow football.
We didn't come away from Breffni Park. No, we didn't. Right. No, we didn't. We came away with a smile on our faces. It was a bigger smile on his face, don't mind you, than on mine. I had to drive him home.
One of the questions is, so explain to us first anyway. Turlough won something in a draw. Did he share it with you? And what was it?
We shared it, but we leave that. That's confidential. But we
classified information.
It was shared. Yeah, he didn't share. He shared it with me, all right. Yeah.
Hey, come here.
He knew better because I was driving him.
This is not the first time you've been treated like a celebrity going up to Breffni Park, I believe, either.
No, it's the second time. The last time I was up there, I was going into the game, and a lady came over and asked me, was I going into? Did I want a ticket for the stand? And I said, yeah, I'll take a ticket for the stand. Went in, sat down, and then this guy came down with an earpiece, and he said to me, make sure to come up to the room at the back at half time. And I said, yeah, no problem at all, thanks very much. And came back down to me then just as I coming to half time. He said, can you follow me? And I followed him up and brought me into this room. And sure, I was wined and dined. I mean, I had anything I wanted, got well fed. Unfortunately, Turlough didn't. He was down the other end and came back to me seat for the second half of the game and to be informed that I had a sponsor, the main sponsor of the game, had given me tickets, and so I was wined and dined for the day. So,
jeez, you're a lucky man.
Oh yeah, so I told Turlough there yesterday when he was going up, you're going into that's a fine room you're going into there now. You'll be well looked after when you go in there.
And the poor old Cavan people get an awful name for being stingy and mean, and there they are giving you free food and the Turlough winning draws and everything.
I have to say now, the Cavan people that were around us yesterday were really nice people and very, very supportive of Carlow and very, 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 very impressed with Carlow. A lot of people around us now even said that Carlow should have got something out of that game. They were impressed with them.
Just before we finish up then, so Andrew Corden Cup, Carlow were playing Waterford the other night. Good work out there, in fairness. They're out again. So the 4th is on Friday, isn't it? I think. Yeah. If I'm looking at that correctly. They're playing Tip in the training centre at 8 o'clock. And just in terms of other football stuff, ladies footballers are out as well at the weekend. I do have that fixture somewhere, so we'll give it out. It is on Sunday, and I believe it's in Netwatch Cullen Park again, which is great to see. And Limerick provide the opposition, so the best luck to them. And we'll touch on that. Funnily enough, it'll sound strange in the hurling show as well, even though it's more of a generic show. This second show. Tommy, thanks for jumping on with us again.
No bother. Thanks, Kevin.
And look, we kind of hinted that it might have been your swan song the last time, but you've answered the call of duty. And I can't wait to hear all these deep, dark secrets come championship time now, seeing as you're involved in their role. We're going to get all the team news. We're going to get everything. We're going to get all the detail.
Listen, look, best of luck to Carlow and to the boys in Carlow, the senior footballers. Yeah. Keep doing what you're doing. I just wish you all the very best of luck. You're doing great work in there, so stick with it, and you will get there. You will get there, and all I can say is just keep at it, lads. Yep. Thanks, Kevin, for having me on.
Thanks, Tommy. Thanks a million.
Yeah, Tommy. Take care, man.
That concludes the football show in association with DB Recovery. So now we move on to the Hurling show, which is very much a generic show, as we're saying. It's also in association with DB Recovery. And again, their new sports recovery centre located in Barra Valley Retail Park beside Duns and the gym in Great Cullen. They provide elite sports recovery services using all the market-leading equipment at affordable prices. As well as the equipment, the staff are all trained to be able to give you the best advice relating to your recovery. DB Recovery caters to everybody from individuals to teams, from your social exerciser to elite athletes. And you can follow them on Instagram at DB Recovery RP for more info, or you can email them dbrecoveryltd@gmail.com. So delighted to bring in the co-chair of the NEC with the GPA. I think I'm getting that right. Maria Kinsella, how are you?
Hey Kevin, how are you?
Have I given you your proper title there?
Yeah, indeed, co-chair of the National Executive Committee.
Good stuff, good stuff. So, I think groundbreaking news over the weekend with the motion that was passed. So we've got integration now. The LGFA, Camogie and the GA will come together under one umbrella. But I suppose this is just the start of the work, I guess.
Yeah, and I suppose it's not even a signed, sealed deal yet. There's a motion coming up at LGFA Congress next week, and I am a little bit worried will it pass or not. And that's for a few different reasons. One is the motion is being proposed by Galway LGFA, and it's being put in as a change to the aims of the association. Potentially could be a stumbling block. It could be better as going as a policy change instead of trying to change an aim of the association. Secondly, the wording of the motion itself is actually just to unite with the GAA, and there's no reference to the Camogie Association. And thirdly, the motion talks about an equal partnership and not one association. So there is a few stumbling blocks to get over before we're all on our merry way towards one association.
Okay, all right, and so not really as straightforward as we thought. We knew it wouldn't be straightforward, of course, anyway. But there is complications. It seems so. I do know in previous times this initial motion we're talking about from Saturday was on the table and it hadn't passed or whatever. Okay, so the progress has been made in that light. And what has led to that? Do you think? Why the change in the last couple of years?
Yeah, so the motion on Saturday was for the GA to prioritise integration, and it came back at 90% approval, which was great to see, and it gives the GA a very clear mandate of where they're heading and what they want to achieve. And even the new 5-year strategic plan coming out by the GA in the coming weeks is called Towards One GA for All. So I think it's very clear from the GA point of view where they want to head. But this debate has been started about 20 years ago under Sean McCabe's presidency, and it was passed on to Sean Kelly, and then Liam O'Neill is probably the presidency that really took it on in 2013. A little bit of progress was made, but the LGFA actually opted not to explore integration with him. I'm not privy to the reasons why, and it's never become public knowledge, but Liam O'Neill did speak on the motion on Saturday and spoke very passionately about it, and even said that his biggest regret as his term as presidency was not making it happen, but said that a line has to be drawn under what happened 9-10 years ago, and everyone needs to come back to the table with open minds and a fresh perspective on things. And I suppose in the meantime, we have got a one club model in operation that came in under Christy Cooney's presidency. There's about 1/3 of GA clubs across the country operation on that. I would see that as a next logical step. Get 100% of all clubs doing it, doing an evaluation, learn the lessons from it, and then progress that to county board and your province's councils as well.
Mm-hmm. Can I just ask why, and this is just your opinion I'm looking for, why would the LGFA potentially not look to go and include all the codes? Is there any reason that you could think of, maybe from your own point of view?
Yeah, like I can only kind of, I suppose, speak from my perspective, and I'm merging the WGPA and the GPA 2 years ago. And
can I just go across you to point that out? So I think it was 3 years ago you were chairperson of the WGPA, and then there was an amalgamation subsequently, yeah?
Yeah, so I was elected chairperson of the Women's GPA in January 2019, and then we merged. We took a vote in December 2020, but in those 2 years there was a an extensive amount of work behind the scenes, figuring out structures, governance structures, funding policies, how we would actually, I suppose, not be consumed by the GPA and retain our own voice. And that was one of the things that was our biggest fear at the time, and entering into those discussions with the GPA is how do we retain our voice and not lose identity and not be consumed. You know, they had 2,500 members, we only had 1,500. They're turning over a balance sheet of about 6-7 million. We're, you know, probably have about 200k of a funding policy for the year. So there's probably a lot of similarities between our merger, but on a far less complex scale, and what's trying to be achieved at a national level now.
But that's probably an advantage, that experience and expertise is there, and the support stream, I would guess, is there if it's needed to be called upon.
Yeah, like, look, one of the greatest things about the GA is actually when they put their head down to it, they're the master of like subcommittees and task force for turning things around and making changes. Like, look at the football structures and how quickly they turned that around from the last Congress. Like, I think if they put their minds to this and bring all the correct parties and show a bit of leadership here and try to maybe perhaps alleviate some of those fears that female associations may have about losing their identity or their voice or their heritage and their tradition and their culture, and put protection mechanisms like we did in the new association, it could be it could move things on swiftly. So like the GPA now has a 50-50 gender on the board of it. The funding policy is 50% males, 50% women. It doesn't matter what game turns over the most revenue, where the revenue comes from. That's a funding policy the GPA made. And, you know, on Friday, we have 800 scholarships going to third level students, 400 male, 400 female. So I think there's a lot of protection mechanisms you can build into the governance side to protect your independent voice.
So that's the fear you think that they may have at the moment.
Yeah. I'd love for them to come out and, you know, say what was on the table 10 years ago from the GA and why they didn't opt for it now, and, you know, just draw a line underneath it, and maybe then we can learn from it and see what needs to be addressed to make this appetizing from their side.
To kind of look at it from their point of view then, so would there be a feeling or a sense that maybe they're looking at the last couple of years and the growth in attendance figures and all these things, and the promotion of it has been very good? Are they thinking to themselves, we've done a pretty good job here, do we need this? Which might sound a little bit naive, but is that a possible thought process as well?
Yeah, like, in one sense, you really do have to take your hat off to the LGFA and what they've done to grow in the female game over the last 5 or 10 years. It's, you know, the exponential growth, and it has been massive. But for me, you need to look at this at a bigger picture. Do you want every girl and boy going into a GA club and have equal investment, recognition, and opportunities throughout their playing career, and also as an administrator or a volunteer and whatever role they take? Because I don't think that can be achieved with 3 separate governing bodies, and that's because of the differences in the resources, the financial clout that the 3 associations offer. Like, there's going to be another 30, 40, 50 years of female inequality, female players experiencing a huge level of inequality simply because they have a separate governing body. Like, the 2 female associations at the moment own 3 grounds on their own. Like, we're at the mercy of the GAA to even play our games and to let us in and have access to pitches and resources. You hear stories of Tyrone women having to pay, you know, 20 grand to access the Tyrone Centre of Excellence, and that's not uncommon. That's very common occurrence. And what probably annoys me is how informal that is across from county to county. It very much depends on how healthy the relationships are between the female county board and the men's county board and the personnel at that given time.
Can I just ask then as well, and look, it is purely a speculative kind of thing to put out there, but if it's a case, and we're not for one second insisting that there is going to be definite resistance from the LGFA, and it's not an agenda against the LGFA, but if it was to be a case where they did have some resistance, is there a big frustration then from females that the resistance is coming from a female organization where, you know, if this was coming from the actual GAA, you would probably have more grounds for frustration? But there's an element of thinking maybe, if that's the case, you're shooting yourself in the foot slightly.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to the LGFA not really communicating why they've been resistant to this in the past. That's where the frustration is growing. Like, I know from our side, all 57 female inter-county squads sent a letter to the Camogie Association and the LGFA supporting our motion at GA Congress last weekend, and also supporting the views of integration. And I think the view at the grassroots level in both female associations is that they want integration. They see and experiences the issues that, of not getting pitches, of not having, resources, of fundraising. Like, it all comes back to one family and one household, regardless. But yet, to even take registration fees, the female registration fees are way higher than the lads at a local club level. So you actually have to pay more to play the game. Is that right? I just think there's so many things that could be achieved. And look, there's a win here for the GA also. Like, I walked into Congress the other day and I was struck by how few women there were there. Like, it was amazing. Like, it was just incredible to see. And I don't think that's reflective of the grassroots level. And you now have Sports Ireland issuing a mandate that the Central Council has to have 40% women by the end of 2023, or they're going to get restrictions on their core funding from the government. And, the financial accounts were presented there on Saturday. 48 million in government funding the GA have received over 2020 and 2021 during COVID.
Staggering, in fairness, like, and Joe, just on, even from your own, you've mentioned one family and you're coming from the same household, and Joe had kind of mentioned it earlier, so I'll let him bring it in here, just in terms of Austin, your dad, like, and then the involvement with Fenna, and James so heavily involved, and yet, like, it's not even under the one umbrella, even though it's, the same game,
Yeah, well, it's just I mentioned to Kevin, I'm sure he's aware, obviously, and I say know you, but you might know your dad, and just how
I served a few times in Connolly's Harder. We'll give them
You're trying to get a deal off, that I'd say. I'm probably in getting stuff for Fenny. You'll probably find he's probably in getting stuff for the club. Like, no, I was just remarking to Kevin. I know we're kind of getting away from it, but the background of leadership and work in the GA isn't. You are following in great family footsteps there, in terms of all your family are so steeped in it, and in terms of leadership and vision, and I think it's brilliant. I think I just, when you remarked on a couple of little things there, that struck home from me. I'm currently, my kids, I have two girls, and one is under 6 and the other is under 12, and and you're seeing what's the future for them, and I suppose it's more in my mindset now, thinking of them going forward. I mean, I was involved and I am involved with Ballinkillen, and I was involved with Fenna, and I had maybe a different perspective back then, not in any bad way, but you're kind of a different mindset. But when you have daughters of your own, and you're seeing the association for who it caters for and the people who are involved in our clubs, it makes absolutely no sense that there is separation. I mean, you mentioned the one club element thing there. I mean, I've seen, again, I suppose, in more recent times in Ballinkillen, and I know what's going on in Fenna. I know and I know the people who are involved there, and how, I suppose, the one club model works and the benefits of it, and it just makes complete sense that we're in it and in the one umbrella. I even see, and again, it's the simple things that you see on the ground, in terms of, even like you said there, the infrastructures, like the training. I mean, we see it again in Ballinkillen, the use of the pitch, when it's Camogie, and that they're making sure that their times are prioritized as well. And I think when we've integrated more together, things work seamlessly, and it's brilliant, and there's the benefits just outweigh. We said at a club level, never mind nationally, to be together, it makes so much sense. And you'd hate to see stumbling blocks put in. I won't say put in the way, but you just love to see it going forward. But I just think it's amazing. I think I know the Ladies Gaelic Football Association, like, the work that they're doing is just unbelievable. I know you see it, Maria, down I might take it again from a very small point of view, but down in Fenna, in terms of the work and the numbers that they're building down there, the organisation itself, it has to be, I don't know in terms of growth in the last number of years, but it has to be the association with the biggest growth, I'd say, in Ireland in terms of numbers, like in terms of where it's came from, if you go back 10 or 12 years. So, again, from my point of view, it's just an absolute no-brainer. I think logistically, financially, recognition of all parties who are involved in our sports and in be it, camogie or hurling, whatever you want to call it, or football or ladies football, whatever. But to have everyone on the one level playing pitch, excuse the pun, it has to be a no-brainer. You know what I mean? And fair play to you for being so heavily involved in it. It's I know I said it before and I put it on Twitter. It's great to see that a Carlow person and a person, that we're so heavily involved in the change, and a person from our own county is so heavily involved in change and bringing that forward. And I know, and say, I know your club is very proud of you, and I know we all are in Carlow for the work you're doing. It's brilliant,
Definitely. You must be beaming yourself.
Beaming, yeah, but I suppose I'm always frustrated by the pace of change within the GAA. There's so many levels of that you have to go through to actually have an impact. But look, I come back to Fenna and home, and I look at the one club model now and look at what an experience that is for young girls starting off at under 6s and 8s. Like, I went into Newtown School, you have merged brick, you're handed a football, that's your PE class. And it's from there then that my first experience of GAA was actually through the men's club, the Fenna GFC, with under 12s and under 14s. I then segued across the Ballinkillen Newtown Ladies Club to play under 14, 16 and minor. And then I came across St. Fortune's to play senior football. So I actually had 3 clubs, which is just mad. And you think of how difficult it is to retain teenage girls in sport at the moment. 1 and 2 are dropping out between the ages of 12 and 14. And then you put in 3 barriers of having 3 different clubs in, training in different pitches, and it makes it 10 times harder. So I'm so happy to now see Fenna in a one club model, and it's seamless. Every girl has the same opportunity as their brothers playing. They train in the same pitches, they have the same opportunities as the same people around the clubhouse looking after them. And I just think that is just going to open up endless opportunities for them.
I think you mentioned one thing there as well. And I see it maybe now. Maybe I obviously see it from a coaching point of view as well. I see it again. We mentioned Fenna again. You have Mary Brooks and you have Gloria Slevin and people like this who are involved. But also I see it now in the club as well, and from Ballinkillen point of view, because I'll be more closely involved at the adult level there. But the amount of ladies who are now involved, that there always would have been some, but now there's more, and because there's that connection and that we're in it together. You're not just a small part of, you're not just Ballinkillen Camogie Club, that kind of comes under the umbrella of Ballinkillen Hurling Club sort of thing. We're all in the one club together, and from an administration point of view and roles in the GAA, I think it's been an incredible positive move in terms of keeping, and especially as well in both our clubs and Kevin's as well, I suppose, in smaller rural clubs where apart from playing numbers, we're on about people to take on roles and very important roles in the clubs who keep the playing members involved and do all the other things. We need everyone involved, and we can't have our clubs and our associations kind of like what you said, even going to Congress there where it's a predominantly male sort of thing. We can't have that model going forward. It's not kind of healthy, and it's not sustainable, and it's not where we want to be in society. So I definitely see it. Like I said, it makes perfect sense, even in our small level, what we're seeing, very closely here. And so it has to make sense going forward. I think nationally it has to, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just on a slight tangent, and sorry to cut across, Maria, I know you're going to come in on something there, but even I suppose to add to this from both codes' point of view, the actual age of what minor is, to have that consistent across both genders as well, because Joe, you said this previously, and I think Peter Canavan said it recently with the motion of going 17s back to 18s and stuff the other day. That not only do you lose a player, you lose possibly a very good administrator. It's not just on the field you lose these people, you lose them in the club, and all these things are so important within clubs to keep them on the ground. It's not just what's happening out in the field. What goes on off the field is every bit as important, because without that, there is no club. So, we have to be mindful of all that as well, I think, and it's worth putting it out there. But Maria, go ahead. I know you were going to jump in.
Yeah, just firstly on Joe's point about, seeing more female in administration roles, I was very fortunate. I had female coaches all the way up. I had Niamh Dobbs, I had the late Jenny Kelly from under 14 county, the club. I was very fortunate. I had very strong female role models, which wasn't the case in a lot of other clubs. And I think, for a girl now under 6 stepping into a pitch and seeing their coach is female, seeing the chairperson is female, seeing, the secretary is female, that's what they need to see, and that needs to become the norm. And that's when, having, I don't know how many years down the road we're talking, but we might actually see a female president of the GA.
Yeah. We had a chairperson, didn't we? Is it Tracy Kennedy in Cork?
Yeah, it's former. And there was a woman in Tyrone as well that was the former chairperson as well. Tracy has stepped down in recent years.
Yeah.
But Congress was an experience, and the lack of women in that room. But then, Kevin, going back to your point, forgive me, what were you just referenced? It's kind of out my head.
Yeah, no, just in general, I suppose, to have the grade consistent of what minor is, and how important that is, whether it's 17 or 18, that is a big difference in someone still playing the game and someone not still playing the game. But also, even though it might be a player who might not be the strongest, they might still love GA and might still want to be involved. But by that not happening, it could turn them away altogether. And you don't just lose the player, you lose a very good administrator.
Yeah, and that debate on whether, under 17, under 19 was actually very interesting on Saturday. And one of the consequences, the unintended consequences of bringing the minor grade back to under 17 is that you're now placing adult expectation to compete at the highest level from an inter-county point of view and win All-Irelands on 16 and 16 and a half year olds. Is that right? Should under 17 be more developmental, and then you're under 19, you're deemed an adult and you go and you play your inter-county or Ireland championship? I thought it was very valid. And there's been huge work gone into a player pathway, which is actually a collaborative approach between the GA and the 2 other associations, as to how you bring an under 6 player through nursery, through juvenile, and then through to senior adult inter-county. And I think there's a lot to be said for recognising that under 17 should be developmental. Placing that level of expectation on 16 and 6.5 year olds is just not right. And I think then, from it needs to step to under 19, and that becomes competitive. Even in a female sense, there's probably a younger age profile as to when you make that transition from being a minor to an inter-county panel. There's probably a little bit more of an overlap where you'll see 17, 18-year-old girls playing senior inter-county, and particularly in the weaker counties. But that's going to catch up again. You see more in S&C level, the strength of the game, the physicality of the game. I think the women's game won't be too long catching up in the men's game, whereby you won't see senior inter-county players until you're 19, 20.
I think the 17, 19 thing as well, we're seeing it with lads. I just want to say lads, I meant as in seeing it definitely with lads at the minute, where they're now 17 and they're then 17 and a half, or maybe just gone whatever, and they're now having to make the step up from under 17 to adult. And we're seeing it, I know, at a local level where we're losing lads because a senior club player is probably after doing a couple of years of S&C, and they're, maybe like they haven't been with a county panel or whatever else, and they're just coming up as a club player. And, there's a massive step up. And I don't know. I mean, and then on the flip side, I know, we'll say with the under 19 thing and having it as an All-Ireland series from a secondary school teacher's point of view, the under 17 was great because you had lads finished in 5th year, they were done the county minor, as they say, and then in 6th year there was less interruption for them. Right, an odd lad to be playing county under 20, but less than years ago where you would have had a lot of lads involved with county squads, county minor squads in 6th year. But it's like you said, it's trying to get that balance, isn't it? It's trying to get the balance so that we retain players from, when they're coming down that bottleneck, that we retain players not only at a county level, but that minor step up to adult level, that we retain them at club level as well. The interesting thing, by the way, there just about that in terms of I know from the insurance point of view, I'm fairly right. I think I'm saying this, that once a player exits under 17, they can play adult football or whatever else. But I'm fairly sure from our insurance point of view, they have to be 18 years of age to use the club gym in an unsupervised in an unsupervised capacity, in terms of that have to be part of a group session. It's amazing, isn't it? All the little things and the little failings, or whatever we call it, or the little yolks that you find out when you go digging, as we say.
A little blip there for a sec. Yeah, we're back.
We're back.
Sorry. Go on ahead.
The fact that there was no defined placeholder as to when this under-19 championship would actually run was one of the main reasons why the motion failed on Saturday. Delegates wanted to see, a little bit more of a mapped out thought process as to where this fits in. You take in then perhaps the mixture of Leaving Cert students as well into that age bracket. And then also the role of third level competitions, and where is the future of that going? And does that act as a stepping stone between, under 19 and senior? Personally, I don't think it should. Not everyone goes to college, and that's everyone's personal choice. And I don't think that should be the stepping stone between under 19 and senior club football.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Sorry, Kevin. I think you hit the nail on the head there as well. About that we have to reflect on while we're talking about inter-county, maybe 19s and 17s. Like, it's the bigger pictures. To step back to club level, the elite 17 and 19-year-old will probably still stay with the association for whatever length of time. Right, he might make the county senior squad, but he'll be playing football with his club or her club, or it's what's happening at the 17-19 kind of divide with the general population or the general club player is a bigger concern, I think, for clubs at the minute, in terms of where they're losing players with the step up, I think, at the minute anyway.
I think even managing that age group transition from secondary school to third level is often an area where male and female players can often fade away, and you lose them, and it's hard to get them back into a club environment and get them training, because it means they're coming home, they're away from training at weekends. So I think it's so important that the clubs continue to cater for that, and provide that pathway, that there is an option there. And some players might step away, but it's all about retaining players at that age.
The other thing, just the last point on the whole grading thing, which I think is interesting, is you were talking, Joe, about it freeing up Leaving Cert students. But you know what it also does? It catches junior cert students, because there's a lot of 15 and 16-year-olds playing on those county minor sites. So that is a bit of a catch-22.
But the only thing about it, Kevin, is, let's be fair, and I'd say this is from a teaching point of view, nowadays we are probably seeing more, like in terms of years ago, a lot of students maybe would have left at junior cert level maybe to pursue apprenticeships, whereas now, while apprenticeships are still plentiful and people are still going into them, or they're leaving at Leaving Cert level, if you get me, you know what I mean. I know that, just to use that as a pathway example. So generally, and generally that is probably more the focus now, in terms of school, in terms of where you are pitching towards. But I understand, Jay, no matter what way you do, you're catching someone, isn't it? Like, that's the reality, isn't it?
That's the way it is. I think the 40% idea of having female involvement as well, I think, is a pretty interesting one, and a good shout too. And we are seeing change there. Like, I think your own sister Anya is a good example, Maria, of being involved with county sides. Yeah. Louise Keane is another one who jumps out. She's been heavily involved, I think, possibly with Sligo at the moment, from a games promotion officer point of view, but would have been with Niall Carew, with Pal. There's a few standouts, and to take it away from GA a little bit, like Lisa Fallon, I think she's fascinating. Yeah. Very, very good to listen to. Very insightful. As good as what's out there. But so here's the caveat with this, and I have to be careful in how I put it. And it goes even into workplace, right? Because I know there is a big feeling among a lot of women that not enough females are in high level jobs. Okay. Now, I'm going to articulate this as best I can. In my opinion, and you can argue this the other way, the best person has to get the job. Take gender out of it. And it's probably been a case for years where maybe females lost out because of that, okay? But going forward, I don't want to see a model, be it in work or be it in sport, or a female is now getting it just because she's female. the best person, regardless, still has to get it. Whether it's sport administration, whether it's coaching, whether it's a job. That's just my view. Now, do you have an alternative view to that?
Yeah, so I suppose it's a bit like the egg and the chicken. What comes first? So when you're trying to create such a cultural change, how do you achieve that without quotas?
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
That's right back at you, Kev. And I agree. I think, I know what you're saying. You have to, if you want to enable change, you have to sometimes, you have to start somewhere. And I suppose sometimes it came down to opportunities, and we'll bring it back to a GA point of view. We'll bring it back into a GA point of view where, like, people weren't given a chance. It was things were sewn up straight away, and you weren't given opportunity to if it was ladies involved in clubs or whatever else, that people were pigeonholed into certain areas, and until you actively changed your mindset on it or your policy on it, and went looking, or nearly, I won't call it actively discriminate, whatever you want to call that term. I'm probably giving the wrong term. But until you did that, until you broke that boundary down, as we're seeing it in both our clubs, I suppose, we are, like Fenna is my club as well, we'll play on football there. But in Fenna and Ballinkillen, just to give two very local examples, when those kind of boundaries were broken down, or whatever you want to call it, kind of in a very active way, now it's the norm, and then and it is the norm now, and obviously, there's good, like, there's the best person to fill the role is fine, but at least now people know that, whoever is going like that, there's no discrimination before the role is up for
so that's
election or whatever else, like, that
to solve that. So then, does the process not have to be like, whoever is, I suppose, adjudicating has to be open to that too? Okay.
Yeah, but what you're trying to break down, Kevin, is probably 120 years of a male, like, if we call the GA, like, in terms of, like, just without not bringing in the other organization, we'll just call it from that point of view, of a male dominated area, like, you know what I mean? And you're trying to break that down. It's very hard. It is very hard to do it, unless, like what Marie mentioned there, in terms of some of the protocol they're putting into place. Unless you actively start to do something about it, it's very hard to make those changes. They're going to be too. I want to say they're going to be too gradual, but they are going to be too gradual. You know what I mean? They're going to take forever. So you have to start somewhere, and sometimes you need to have that kind of active discrimination in order to get things going.
Yeah.
And to create opportunities for people. Do you know yourself, in terms of, you need to have that culture. Whatever about the best person getting it, that's fine. But at least if we're all in it, if the three of us are going for an interview for something, and we are all going that we are all going to be equally valued, and we're equally, our chances are equal. That's what we want. And right, so be it. If Kevin gets it, or Maria gets it, or Joe gets it, that's fine. But at least we know the process is true. Has been fair. And I think you have to have that, and you have to create the atmosphere somehow. And and I think that's great. By the way, sorry, Maria, just one thing that you mentioned there, the scholarships point of view. Isn't that just so brilliant? Like, I mean, how many times have we seen the promotion of, Kevin Regan there, for instance? Kevin is on scholarship in NUIG, he's whatever, Carlo Hurler, Kevin Regan. And now to have that, and to have those opportunities for our ladies, for our best ladies across different sports, and then the knock-on effect of the promotion that's now going to give to those associations and to those young players to see, well, Jesus, right, I know Cian Lynch is on a scholarship, but I know if I'm excelling in ladies football in Limerick, that I have the same opportunity that Cian Lynch has. Imagine how that empowers people. Do you know what I mean? Imagine how that makes people feel, if you get me, young ladies feel when they see that. So sometimes I think at the start, you have to make kind of seismic jumps, and then see where it goes from there, like,
not to be misrepresented, I don't mean that in the sense that in the infancy stage.
I know.
You're taking
we know what you mean.
On a different route with it. But
I don't think quotas are perfect either. There's definitely cons to quotas, as in, like, if you have a club exec and you're saying, right, there's so many positions and 40% have to be women, pushing women into roles like cultural officer, or these lesser important roles on club exec just to tick a box, is a kind of a quota that could easily happen as well. So they're not perfect, but
Yeah.
I think to create that fundamental cultural change that needs to happen, and like it's not just even the GA, we're seeing this around business, boards of governance everywhere, where it's a 30% club or a 40% club, and they're trying to achieve it. So it's very much a societal issue, as it's not just a GA tackling this either.
I would think you can achieve it by picking the right person still. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So that's the way it has to be.
Work.
Exactly. That's it. And the right person, as I said previously, has to be there to do that. And I don't mean that from I don't know what
if I'm going for a role, I don't want to get it just because I'm a woman.
Yeah. Exactly. You want to get it because you're the best person for it.
Exactly.
But you also the people adjudicating it have to be of that mindset. That is the best person. That it's not a person saying, we need to give it to her because she's a woman, or we need to give it to him because he's a man, or because there's this, that, and the other. But this is just calling it down the line. In time, once we have a foothold with everything, like you've talked about the GPA, that there's a 50-50 split there. And it's the right 50-50. There's good people of both genders there that are articulate and know what they're about and know who they're representing, and they're representing them properly. So in general, I think that has to be taken into account when we do hopefully get this integration going.
Yeah, and I think what's important there is, and what's often not spoke about, I think enough for my liking, is the role that men actually play in that. Because for us to create 50-50 on the GPA gender board, there was actually some incredible male players who actually had to step away to make way for females. Like you take Seamus Hickey, the former Limerick hurler, former chairperson of the GPA, interim CEO of the GPA at one stage, and he had to step aside to make way for a woman. And for him, like, to have the vision and to accept that where he wanted the association to go, he needed to do that, I don't think is given enough recognition or is talked about enough, and how men can actually help create this change.
Goes back to absence of ego and seeing the bigger picture, isn't it? And credit.
But I think that's the key thing, Kevin. Like it's opening that mindset, and from a GA point of view, apart from going into society, like that's what we are. Like you're trying to break down 120, 130 years of a kind of a nearly a completely male-dominated area, even in terms of camogie, in terms of a lot of the personnel involved, ladies football, are still, male or male trainers or male managers or whatever, and it's the idea of you have to create change. You have to light a spark somewhere, and sometimes that spark needs a little bit of help and to get things going, and then things can balance out. But I see the point of it. Like I see where and I see the benefits of it in terms of to be more open-minded, or to be whatever you want to call it, progressive, whatever word you want to put on it. But we see the benefits of it in all our clubs. Like we're just seeing it at the ground level, like in terms of everything. It's just it's a brilliant change to happen. And I think long may it continue. No, that's all. Long may it continue.
To finish up on it then, Marie, and you've been very good with your time. Thanks a million. Where do we see a timeline for this if we have buy-in? Like, is it kind of how long is a piece of string question at the moment, or is there a kind of a plan in the back of your mind that you think how long this could possibly take?
Yeah, like look, first of all, it's getting the buy-in of the LGFA and the Camogie Association, and then it's getting the three of them in a room together and putting a deal that's fair and represents the vision of what we want one association to look like. I'd love to say that 2-3 years time significant steps could be taken on this road. That's what I'm hoping for. If you're able to turn around things like structural changes and like that in 6 months, it comes down to the strength of the will at that table. I realise it's not easy. Like, look at all the different layers you have to try merge. If you even take like the Carlow County Board, so if that becomes one county board that represents the 4 code, like how does that work? How do you actually bring the 3 county boards together? Who's a chairperson? Is there co-chairs? What's the structure of it? Is there an individual chairperson for each code underneath it? How is funding allocated? How is pitch allocation works? Like, how are officers elected? How did the rule books all merge into one association? Like, We currently have 3 different sets of rules. Like when you actually look at the practicalities of the steps that need to go in to make it happen, it's not as easy as it sounds on paper.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to be too deeply involved in trying to make it all work, because I think a lot of paracetamol and Nurofen might be needed over the next couple of years. But you know what? It's a great position to be in that we're even talking about it. So
it's exciting, isn't it? It's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I think it's great, to be honest with you. Maria Kinsella, look, we'll leave it there. Thanks a million for coming on, and keep up the good work, all right?
Thanks a million, Kevin. Mind yourselves. Thanks, Joe.
Great stuff.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, brilliant stuff, Joe.
Great.
Yeah, it is, and it's great debate in there as well. Good, honest debate. You know, and it's great to see someone from our own county, as you said, doing
Jesus,
so well.
I think it's brilliant. But like I said to you in the message, Kev, you know, the whole family, I'm just picking, and I know Marie, and there's lots of other people involved in what's going on behind the scenes, but just from our own point of view, we're mentioned there about things in their blood, and you know, and people in the family there, like, you know, like I said, we know Austin, dad, who was involved with Fenner for years and still is, and you know, James is now at that position. He was selector last year, and he's kind of he'll be going into the committees and all that, and he was with the intermediate hurlers in Ballinkillen, and then, you know, his sister as well involved, and Anya, like, you know, heavily involved, and the great promotion that the family has and the leadership it has, like, it's just brilliant to see it, and it's great to see that it's great to see the work they're doing, and hopefully, like I said, I see it myself now from the point of view of having 2 girls, and I just see I maybe see things a little bit differently than I did maybe 10 or 12 years ago when maybe I hadn't got them. So you know, hopefully it'll happen sooner rather than later.
Definitely. So yesterday in Hurling Park, the Hurling. It's a Hurling show, I suppose, so we may talk about it for a few minutes anyway.
For a few minutes, I might give it 5 minutes. I think that was a brilliant.
And we have the Camogie to talk about as well. Look, we'll go Hurling first, and wrap it up first. 20 points to 13 in the end, I think. Look, doesn't sound like look, it's disappointing, I suppose, to put it very simply, but you were there, so tell us all about it.
I was, sure, look, it was disappointing. Like, ultimately, like we mentioned there about footballers and taking something from a kind of a, you know, a good performance, but I think the hurlers, like, performance really wasn't really what they were there about yesterday. They needed a win to back up the win that they got against Westmeath. Now, ultimately, as the way results are turning out, it means probably at this stage, you know, they're still in it. You know, if they're playing Kildare next weekend, and then they have that Meath last, and probably next weekend is probably the game is the real game of the season for them so far. Like, you know, and it's amazing after 2 losses that we can still say that, but it really is. It comes down to it. But yesterday's game, great start, as in, you know, very solid, very workmanlike. Punish Kerry's mistakes, like, you know, Kerry coughed us up kind of 3 chances, you know, crossfield balls, or, you know, mishandling and stuff like this, and we took them, hit a couple of wides along the way, which probably came against us later on in the match, but we were kind of looking fairly comfortable. We're a point or 2 up, and we got a penalty. A great ball in. I think Jack McCullough played a great ball into, I think it was Kevin McDonald, got upended in the square. I'm trying to remember now. I think it was Kevin. He played it across. Jack played it from his own half back line. You know, wasn't even going for a shot. Saw the run was being made, and Kevin drew the foul on 2 Kerry defenders, and it was a penalty to Carlo. And it was kind of a, you know, it was one of those game defining moments. And fairness to Dermot, stepped up. Now, there's a little bit of confusion, I thought, maybe from the stand, and I know maybe Stevie thought as well that there was a little bit of confusion about who was going to hit the penalty. I suppose Kevin was on the freeze, and we know kind of Brian Tracy can hit them, and I suppose Chris can hit them as well in terms of penalties and freeze and so on. And but Dermot stepped up anyway, and didn't really probably connect as well as he'd want. Put the ball to the goalie's kind of right hand side, but in fairness, the goalie got down well and saved it. And the ball was cleared upfield, and Kerry won a free, which brought them, you know, it was kind of a 4-point swing. And I suppose it was a real kind of sickener. You know, it was a real sickener because, you know, it could have been, I think had we got that goal, we probably would have pushed on and possibly won the game, because we were on top in most of aspects of our play. So it was kind of a big swing. And then I suppose the second big swing that we kind of aware of was the sending off. Dermot Byrne got a straight red card, and that kind of, it really, I suppose it kind of, Kerry were kind of after finding their feet a little bit, and it just stung us for a while. I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think, probably like in a modern game, when you raise your hands, you're leaving yourself open to to the referee's mercy, and the referee deemed it a red card, so that put us a man down. So we're always, suppose, under more pressure then. Kerry kind of, Kerry didn't get away from us though, which was an encouraging thing to see. We kept it down to, we did a purple patch. Kevin McDonald got 2 points, 2 quick points from play in the start in that second half, and I think it was 12-10 at one stage. And then actually Kerry got a man sent off, which was, a second yellow, a foul, and Chris Nolan, their cornerback, got sent off. And I suppose we thought that maybe that might swing it back in our favour, but it was actually Kerry who pushed on and finished out stronger to hit us for a couple of points in a row. I suppose there was a couple of things, like I thought we, probably the two key men on the pitch for me anyway, from an opposition point of view, were probably the two Boyles, number 11 and 15. I always get them mixed up. Pádraig, I think, was 15. But he got 4 points from play. He was kind of playing out around the middle, and he was kind of a very hard man to pin down for us during the day. He in fairness, he was working back. And then their number 11, then the other boy lad, was back kind of as their sweeper, or as their kind of, behind their centre back.
Sounds like, I think Mikey is usually,
yeah, mixed up. Mikey,
Pádraig's close to goal,
yeah, and he was excellent as well. He mopped up a fierce lot of ball, and we just couldn't create, the chances around them. Now, did we create much more? We didn't. Like we didn't create a whole pile in terms of, we did, think, about 13 wides over the hour, and probably the ones in the first half were probably ones where we could have pushed out that little bit further ahead, and probably would have maybe given us a better foothold in the game. But I suppose for anyone who wasn't at the game, we were dealt kind of two big blows during the week there, with Fitzpatrick and Mouse Kavanagh not being, named, not being able to play. They were named in the team, but they weren't actually even togged out at the weekend. And like, Fiacre was flying at midfield, and while Richard Cody came in and actually did very well, I think Richard actually played nearly the full 70 minutes, or he might come off just near the end, and Conor came off a bit earlier, but Fiacre's presence was definitely missed, and he obviously chips in with a point or two. And then, like, I suppose we were down a potential half forward line, with Sean Murphy still serving a suspension from, I think, the down game still, and then with Mouse out, and then with John Nolan out as well. So kind of it left us a little bit shorn up front in terms of our firepower. Chris Nolan got a couple of nice scores. Got a brilliant score, probably the score today actually under the stand. Damien Jordan was actually beside me, and we just kind of looked at it, or just across the other side of the aisle in the stand, and we just looked at each other, and he says, like, and he was right. He said, "You're on about promotion of the game." He says, "If I could get a clip of that score again," he says, "it should be sent to every lad in a development squad in Carlow." Just what he did with it, his touch, up, and his wrist to get it up and over his shoulder and over the bar, was just incredible. It was a brilliant score. But I don't know. I think, I don't know whether we got the, I thought we could have hammered the hammer maybe in some places a little bit more yesterday. I thought John Michael, had probably the beatings of his man, in the air in there, and we maybe to fire a couple of more balls in on top of him when, I know it's not firing it in top of a sweeper, but there was a times when we drew out their number 11 a little bit, and we were 2 for 2 inside, and we were still kind of very fond of working the ball around the middle. And I know I mentioned it in a private text message about sometimes about playing to your strengths, and I think a game like yesterday where we had a big target man in there, probably on a full back that he had the beatings of, that we could have got maybe a little bit more joy out of him had he got a little bit more ball. Yeah, it was disappointing. I said the lads will be disappointed. They were disappointed. They were a little bit flat in how they performed. Their scoring power was definitely down. I think in terms of scores from play, we might have got Kevin McDonald, I think, got 3 points, and he was taken off with maybe 5 or 6 minutes to go. Now, I don't know whether he ran out of steam, whether he picked up a knock, but it was kind of an unusual one from the point of view. He was our top scorer, and to take him off, he probably wasn't having the same influence as maybe as the last couple of games, But in terms of his scoring power and creating that little couple of moments of magic, I just thought, it was a little bit unusual. But like I said, maybe he did pick up a knock during the course of the game. So yeah, it was definitely one where I think the lads will be disappointed not to put 2 good games back to back. You know what I mean? In terms of, to get the win over Westmeath was massive, especially after coming back after the defeat against Down, and then to kind of fall back on your heels again, because had we won yesterday, it would have definitely, we probably would have, even regardless of next week's results, probably been in a good enough position to qualify for at least a semi-final in the league. Whereas now it kind of puts next week's game, it's a massive game next week. It's kind of do or die really between ourselves and Kildare up in Kildare, and they'll be very buoyant after that. Got a 1-point win yesterday up in Newry. And again with their Naas contingent back as well.
I know what you said, Newry.
Oh, sorry. At the north, should I say?
Oh no, but I was hoping you. I wasn't saying that in a.
No, I don't think it was Newry. I think it was
in an ignorant sense.
No, I think it was.
But if it was, that's interesting.
No,
that's all.
Don't quote me on that. No, I say Newry because I think I'm up there myself. But no, don't quote me on that. No, look, regardless, they beat them up in their own patch, and I think
regardless of where it is, that's a good result. Like,
I think and I think I just think the manner of our performance yesterday, just not maybe not getting the scores on the board when we were dominant, and then that flat patch, the flat little patch where we had a couple of flat patches in the second half where we kind of won purple patch where we hit those maybe I think it was 3 points in a row where we closed the game, but then we finished poorly. We were very flat near the end, and the game was kind of always Kerry's there, even when it was 14v14, they looked far more comfortable. And I think that'll be something that Tom and the lads will be kind of more concerned about, that kind of level of consistency.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that. Like, it seems worlds apart from the Westmeath game, and then the Down game. Look, it was always going to be difficult, but still seemed like there was a lot lacking, even though the conditions were, not favourable on the day. So that's ultimately what you're looking for, is a consistent performance. Like, So it doesn't seem like that's kind of the case.
Yeah, but I suppose I think our panel as well. We've a lot of new lads, we've a lot of younger players coming in, and for us to be without the experience of, say, take Mouse, take John. Sean is back in this year, but he's a county hurler from before. He's a physical, strong man, a direct runner. Take Fiach Fitzpatrick, who is only in this year, but has been a revelation at midfield. And to take those out kind of from, well, John didn't play the first league game, but take the 3 of them out from the first league game, even, you're down a kind of a forward threat. Like, our backs, in fairness, like, right, they conceded 20 points, which isn't a big score, which is probably, is below average in terms of scoring, so our backs were solid and well set up, now I know whatever those hit a nice few frees, but like, you're going to have that in the hurling game. But they were very disciplined, and didn't let Kerry create goal chance and so on. But I think we missed the lads that little forward, kind of drive, and like I said, you're taking out kind of a potential half forward line missing, and a definite starting midfielder, and that's not being disrespectful to the lads who are in there instead of them, but you're taking them out of your panel. You're not even just taking them out of your team, you're taking them out of your panel for the day. So you're down, and I know, like I said, Kerry, the league division, the way it is at the minute, like, everyone is kind of nearly beating everyone, if you get me, like, which is a mad thing, like, that we've 2 losses and we're still in the hunt, if you get me, in the division. So it kind of shows that on any given day, any result is possible. But I think for next weekend, I'm not sure the fitness status of the lads. I don't know whether John Nolan is in a position to come back. I'm not sure on Fiacre and Mouse's injuries are the long term, or are they just niggles that they picked up, but neither of them togged on Saturday or on Sunday, which is a worry, I suppose. That you'd be wondering, are they going to be all right for next week? I think Sean is back. I think Sean had a 2-match ban, so he'll be back, and he'll definitely add some kind of oomph up front. But they're going to need it. They're going to, like, Naas, with the Naas lads backbone, and now Kildare again, and kind of the high that they've been on. And in fairness, like we saw it last year, we went up there in the Joe McDonough, we only got out by a point or two. by the skin of our teeth. Like, you know, our lads are really going to need to bring their A game up there to Newbridge next Sunday, if they're to get the result that they need to stay in the fight for championship or for league progression. Like, you know.
So that's 2:00 in Newbridge. Saturday, the minor hurlers are out against Antrim, 1:00 up in the Centre of Excellence in Abbottstown. Yeah, we wish them the very best luck, and hopefully we can get a result. I was at a game between those two. I think it was under 20s actually a couple of years ago. We always have good contests at Antrim. It doesn't matter what the grade is. There's never too much in it. And then just switching focus to Camogie. So, look, to be very clear and transparent about everything, there's been difficulties with the Camogie side of things. All right, so at the start of the season, I think a manager was reappointed and then subsequently removed. And there is issues off the field. Let's not disguise them without going into massive detail, because they're not consolidated in terms of facts either. But there is issues. So there was a wonder and a worry about maybe were we going to have a team for a little while. But thankfully, a team fielded on Saturday, did quite well, didn't get the result. It was a strong side, in fairness. Dublin won out 3-7 to 7 points. I'm interested. Colin McAllister was down to referee that one. But they're out again. Supposed to be out on Saturday against Armagh. The venue has yet to be decided, and if someone does have that, feel free to get in touch with us. But we do wish him the very best. Mark Ayres now has taken charge. Very good man.
Yeah,
in fairness,
top man. In fairness to him, yeah,
has had great success with Michael. Yeah. So look, all we can do is wish him the very best, you know, because we've made too much progress with that code to let things slip. And there's too many good players coming through. I mean, players have won Ashbourne Cups in the last 2 weeks. We had Katie Gary Murphy and Catherine Kavanagh on, and, you know, even there's too much progress. So hopefully we can keep on an upward trajectory and keep her lit, as the fella said.
I think the association in Carlow as well has made great progress. I mean, was it last year, the year before, they fielded 2 under-14 teams, you know, county teams, and so the association's blossomed in Carlow. So look, it's you know, keep it going, and look, you're going to have blips and stuff and different little. You know,
it happens.
Exactly, it happens, and you just have to do your best to get over them and move forward for everything, you know. Just when you're mentioning referees there, it was interesting to see. I managed, because there wasn't a whole lot else going on Sunday, I got to see our own game because it was on early, and Carlow game, and then came home and looked at a couple more, and I looked at a couple more on Saturday as well. Just be curious to know, was there a special word in referees' ears about hand passing? It seemed to be something that was pulled up a lot at the weekend from the games I saw, and probably rightly so. A lot of them, we were on the benefit and the not so benefit side of a few at the weekend, in terms of throws, and I just noticed it on some of the televised games as well. And I think it's no harm, because, you know, some of them are just, like I said, there's some lads and there's no more hand passing action now than Shep. And it'd be interesting to see, was it something that was I won't say, maybe, you know, that sometimes referees are given certain things to keep a special eye on, but it was definitely something I noticed myself over the weekend that was more in my mind anyway, when I was looking at a referee's performance anyway. So just to say a little side note, that's all.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts before we wrap it up, Joe?
God, normally I do, Kev. I don't have a whole lot now.
Schools action?
Most schools action is
midterm last week, sure.
Yeah, well, most schools action now is going to be down to the hurling, the juvenile hurling, what we used to call juvenile hurling. It's kind of first year hurling, first and second year hurling really now. That's kind of where we're at. Most other competitions are finished up. I'm not sure. I can't remember the progress of all our schools. I'm not leaving anyone out. It might be actually, you know, I might do a little roundup actually next week for next week's program and bring it if there's things that we've missed. But there will be a second year. Hopefully, we're going to be playing a kind of a combined second year team, you know, county by county. That's something that we're kind of hoping to do. I know our coaching team, the Carlow GA coaching team, you know, Brendan and Damien and Sean and all those lads are out in the secondary schools constantly, and I know, you know, they're all organising our blitzes, and I know they're doing a lot at national school level as well. And fair play to them. We really appreciate them. I know the lads. I know from a second level school, and I know from my own kids in a national school, they really love to have the lads coming out to them and give them the quality coaching that they do. So just a big thank you from all the second level schools to our great coaches that are coming in from Carlow GA.
And a big thank you, Joe, for jumping on again. You
No
rarely
bother,
miss a
man.
Monday,
Anytime.
in fairness, and much appreciated.
No bother, man. Nice to talk to you again.
Thanks a mil. That's Joe Nolan. And we are just going to give a final shout out to the sponsor of both shows tonight. That is DB Recovery. Just to recap again, a new sports recovery centre located in Barrow Valley Retail Park, down beside Dunn's and the gym in Grey Cullen, providing elite sports recovery services using all the market-leading equipment at affordable prices. As well as the equipment, the staff are all trained to be able to give you the best advice relating to your recovery, and DB Recovery caters to everybody from individuals to teams, from your social exerciser to elite athletes. You can follow on Instagram at DB Recovery RP for more info, or email dbrecoveryltd@gmail.com. Don't forget, you can get in touch with us as well. leftwingbackpodcast@gmail.com. Give us a follow on Twitter and on Facebook and Instagram there. And if you do like what we do, as you said, we have a buy me a coffee thing floating around there somewhere. I don't think it's embedded in the link tonight, but generally it's knocking around, not compulsory or anything like that. But if you like what you're hearing and what you're seeing, for the price of a coffee, you can support the podcast. And just while we're on it, actually, we might have some exciting news coming in the next couple of weeks in relation to look, we'll give it away here, one part of it anyway. We have a website on the way, so hopefully we'll be able to give you the opportunity to not just listen to the podcast or look at the podcast. We might even have articles coming there as well, so something for you to maybe read, and merchandise on the way too. So that's expected in the next couple of weeks, and we'll give you more details on that as it emerges. Everyone for tuning in, I suppose, from that point of view, thanks a million. Appreciate it as always. Good to be back. We do it all again next Monday at 9 o'clock. Until then, best luck to all our teams in both codes, both genders, across the weekend, and on Monday night at 9 o'clock next week. We'll chat to you then. Take care.